Tonight, as the U.S. Navy is conducting a blockade in the Strait of Hormuz in a war Donald Trump started, MS Now reports the head of the Navy has been fired. Dane Phelan removal was driven by his poor relationship with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other senior Pentagon officials, a person familiar with the matter said. Earlier today, the Pentagon released a statement announcing that Phelan is, quote, departing the administration effective immediately. They gave virtually no explanation. It is just the latest upheaval at the Pentagon under Pete Hegseth, who has been firing top generals and other senior military officers, including the Army Chief of Staff just a few weeks ago, as this war continues. Sarah Mark Kelly is a Democrat of Arizona, former Navy captain, serves on the Armed Services Committee, and he joins me now. Sarah, it's good to have you. And first, just your reaction to the rather sudden firing of the Secretary of the Navy in the midst of a war in which a majority of the country's naval assets are in the theater of war, and we are actively engaged right now at this moment in a naval blockade.
Yeah, and on top of that, Chris, we've expended an extraordinary number of munitions, Tomahawk cruise missiles, SM-3s, other things. So we've got a problem, and it's up to the Secretary of the Navy to make sure the Navy is trained and equipped adequately, for threats against our country. Whether it's, there in CENTCOM or in the Western Pacific with regards to China. So this is bad timing. I'm pretty sure I know why this happened. We have a Secretary of Defense who was ill-equipped for this job, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense ever. And who knows, the real rationale for why, this happened. I would suspect we might find out at some point that, Secretary Phelan had some opinions and offered some suggestions on policy that the Secretary of Defense didn't like.
We know the Secretary of Defense has had pretty tense showdowns with other secretaries, including, the Secretary of the Army. Very well reported. They had a standoff over promotions of women and black officers who were up for promotion and that were being blocked by Pete Hegseth. We all know that he fired the Army Chief of Staff just a few weeks ago. It is striking, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like a lot of tumult and upheaval, particularly in the midst of active conflict.
Yeah, it's chaos. It's not surprising. Firing Randy George, who was the Chief of Staff of the Army, he was one of the most professional, qualified members of the armed forces in a time when we're at war, when this administration has even suggested that we would put troops on the ground in Iran. Not the time to get rid of the Chief of Staff of the Army, the leading uniformed member of our biggest fighting force. It makes absolutely no sense. Hey, these guys are flailing, from the top down. The President, the Secretary of Defense, they do not know what to do. And that's what happens when you have a president that gets us in a conflict without any kind of strategic goal, without a plan, without a timeline, with no exit strategy. What's the goal today? They're probably good if we could get the Strait of Hormuz back open, which was open in February. It's because of this president that people across our entire country are now dealing with the higher costs of gasoline and diesel. And because of that, food prices are starting to rise. You talked a little bit about that. People can't afford their lives, and this president, with this Secretary of Defense, has made it a lot worse.
The Secretary of Defense also announcing this week that he's going to get rid of mandatory flu vaccines for the U.S. Armed Forces. You noted that General George Washington believed that vaccinating his troops against smallpox was the key to winning the Revolutionary War and our independence. A founding father from 250 years ago had a better understanding of science and military readiness. Pete Hegseth did strike me as a truly bizarre move for people that are going to be serving next to each other in close quarters. I know offices where it's strongly encouraged people get flu vaccines, and they're not going to be in barracks together in war.
Right. Imagine the flu running rampant on a submarine or an aircraft carrier or in an Army battalion. That puts all of us at risk. It affects our national security. And, here's the thing about science. Science doesn't care if you don't believe in science. That's the way the flu is going to work. It doesn't care.
Yeah.
And vaccines work. And it was a requirement in the military that you get a flu vaccine. They're safe and they're effective. I mean, George Washington, realized that there was, a huge advantage if he would inoculate his troops for smallpox. That was 250 years ago. And this Secretary of Defense, has to, how is he going to relearn that lesson? This is what happens, again, when you put unqualified people in very important jobs.
President of the United States posting something today from one random person on Truth Social urging you to be held accountable and lock him up. I imagine at this point the president saying that kind of rolls off your back because it's sort of become de rigueur for him. Does it even rise to the level? Does a staff member even show it to you at this point?
I barely looked at it. Somebody mentioned it to me. I think I looked at it when I was going to respond to it, right? And I had some kind of response that I approved. Yeah, it doesn't matter at this point. The president thinks he can intimidate me. He picked the wrong guy. I'm not backing down. Right now I'm defending the constitutional First Amendment rights of over 2 million retired veterans, and really kind of all of us. The president didn't like what I said, so he wants to silence me. But, in this case, I'm not going to be silenced. I'm suing Pete Hegseth because when they failed to indict us criminally, yep. And then he is trying to reduce me in rank and take away my pension after 25 years of service, and I'm not having it.
You are one of the few people I get to talk to who has been in outer space and been in zero gravity and gotten to look out the window of a spaceship at a little blue marble of Earth. And given how compelled all of us were by Artemis, it really felt like a magical moment across the world. Were you jealous? Were you like, maybe, I wish I was up there?
Absolutely. I was there for the rocket launch. I was about 2.5 miles away. And the last rocket launch that I saw with people on it in person, I saw in the rearview mirror, from Space Shuttle Endeavour, where I was the commander on Endeavour's final flight. So, yeah, I was really jealous. I, certainly would, trade 10 days in the Senate for being on that trip around the moon. But here's the thing about that. That crew and NASA and all the people behind them made this thing look easy. It's not easy. It's really, really hard to fly faster and further than anybody else, hit a target in the middle of space, and then rely on Sir Isaac Newton, right, to take you around the moon and back. It's not like they have a lot of extra delta V to be able to, just fly back to Earth.
Yeah.
You're relying on physics and math and science. By the way, a reminder to Pete Hegseth about what we can do when we believe in science. I'm talking about the flu vaccine here again. So, it was a great moment for our country. I think it was at the right time. It was needed. It's one of those unifying moments that bring us all together.